And I'd like to begin by thanking Chazaq for bringing us all here together and all your incredible work. Thank you for inviting me. I'd also like to share with you that there is an amazing organization called Daily Giving. I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but just for $1 a day, we can all join together and come together as one nation, $1. And at the end, it becomes thousands and thousands of dollars that we support each other. So many organizations. It's a beautiful way of creating Achdut, especially now when we need Achdut so badly. So thank you, Chazaq, and thank you, Daily Giving, for being part of this evening tonight. Eis Tzarihi Yaakov. We are in a very, very difficult matzav right now, all of us. Whether we live here or Eretz Yisrael, we feel as if we've been pummeled, so much going on. COVID, Meron, now in Eretz Yisrael, my own little granddaughter was in a bomb shelter this week. I mean, how do we go on? And my question for us all is, how do we go from a place that is hopeless to hopeful? How do we go from Mem Tesh Shari Tuma to Mount Sinai, to Har Sinai, where really Shemayim va'aretz, heaven and earth, came together, and Am Yisrael declared together, Nasiv and Nishman, the whole world trembled, and Am Yisrael trembled, and we were on the highest of the high, from Mem Tesh Shari Tuma. How did we do that? When we come right now to Shavuos, to Har Sinai, there's no such word in Lashon Kodesh, there's no such word in the Chumash as history. How do you say history in Hebrew? Historia. It's a made-up word. History, yeah. Because we don't have history. We have koach, we have energy, we have a sipur, we have a story to tell. Kol hamarbe l'saper b'yisiyat Mitzrayim hareze meshubach. What does that mean? It means it's a sipur. And you and I, we write that sipur every single day. We turn the page and we write pages of Emunah. So when we come now to Har Sinai, it's not something that happened years ago, some ancient history, like Thanksgiving that everybody's celebrating. This is who we are today. This is the chizuk, and this is the energy, and this is the koach that you and I have right now today. So my question is, how do we retrace and walk in the footsteps of Am Yisrael and plug into the energy of Har Sinai 2021 right now with everything that's going on? Because if those who came before us can go from Mem Tesh Shari Tuma, from so much darkness to so much light and so much greatness to become Am Segula, Hashem's treasure, then that's our koach here, right now. How do we do it? My mother, Rebbetzin Jungreis Shalom, her zechus should be with all of us. I know she's Melita Yosher for all of us right now. My mother always taught me, Hafoch ba dekula ba. Turn the pages, everything's in the Torah. If you want to know something, you just have to look in the Torah, but we have to know where to look. So for tonight's shir, when we're speaking about reconnecting and replugging and rededicating and re-energizing each of us, where do we go? We go back to Har Sinai. So join me. We're going to go on a journey right now, back to Har Sinai, and watch what the Torah tells us. And I always love to go back to the words of the Psukim, because that's Kedusha, that's our story, that's our Sipur, that's who we are. B'chodesh hashlishi letzeis b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim bayom hazeh. First of all, bayom hazeh. Rashi asks us a very basic question. Why bayom hazeh? Why not bayom hahu, on that day? Bayom hazeh. Zeh, this day. Asher anochi mitzavcha hayom. We say every day in Shema. Why? Because Torah has to be chadash. And that's what Rashi says. It's not bayom hahu. It's not something that happened then. Bayom hazeh. When we come to Har Sinai, we have to feel it's chadash. It's Rosh Chodesh today. This is our yontiv. We are renewed. We are rededicating. We are refreshing ourselves. So we have to first of all realize, all of us, that when we come right now to Har Sinai, to Shavuos, It's Bayom Hazeh. I have to have that fire inside of me. I have to feel as if I'm standing right now, coming to Har Sinai 3 days before. Here we go. So that's number one. And then the pasuk tells us something so beautiful. Vayisu mi Refidim. Am Yisrael came from Refidim. Why is that important? Refidim's not just the name of a place. You know what it means, Refidim? Refidim means weakness, chalash, to be weak. Am Yisrael was coming from a very weak point. They had been blaming, they had been complaining, they were disconnected from Torah. Vayisu mirafidim. If you and I want to come to Chag HaShavuos and we really want to plug in to the energy, to the koach, again we want to feel Nasav and Nishma, we want to feel that fire. Do you know what we have to do? Vayisu mirafidim. We have to leave all the dysfunction behind. We have to know that just because I made a mistake does not mean that I am a mistake. Just because I failed at something doesn't mean that I am a failure. Sometimes we're all going to fall in life. Sometimes we're all going to feel as if we are spiritually weak. Sometimes we're all going to feel as if we've made a bad mistake. Ay, 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 how did I say that? How did I do that? What did I do? But instead of going on and on again in our minds and beating ourselves up and saying, this year sounds great, but you don't know what I did. You don't know where I've been. You don't know what I said. Vayisu mirafidim. In order to come to Har Sinai, to Mamad Har Sinai, we have to leave all the weakness behind, and we have to believe in ourselves, in our potential of ourselves, in our neshama. What do we say every morning? Moda'ani. Thank you, Hashem. Rabba emunasecha. Great is your belief in me. The fact that I wake up in the morning and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives me life, breathes life into me, means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu believes that I am vital in this world. There's nothing that I could have done that Hashem now says, not you at Har Sinai. Vayisu mirafidim. Leave all that weakness and self-doubt behind. And now we can come to Har Sinai. But before we even come to the keys of Kabbalas HaTorah, do you know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to us? It's unbelievable. We know it, but we don't know it. Listen carefully. Moshe Allah El HaElokim Vayikra Elav Hashem min Hahar. And Moshe went up to Hashem, and Hashem calls him from the mountain, Leimar, Ko Somar Lebeis Yaakov V'Sagid Livnei Yisrael. We all know that pasuk. But what does that pasuk really mean? Do you know what it means? Before you speak to the men, who do you have to speak to? The woman. Beis Yaakov, the women. Ladies first. Wow! We're talking about Har Sinai here. Mamad Har Sinai, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, before you go to the yeshivas, before you go to the rabbeim, before you go to the Beis Medrash, before you go to the shul, do you know who you have to speak to? Beis Yaakov. You have to speak to my daughters. Why is that? And Medrash Rabbah tells us exactly why this was done. Because women are mizdarzos b'mitzvos. What does that mean? When you tell a woman to do something, it's going to get done. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to know that we as women have a tremendous responsibility and a tremendous ability. We carry the future of Klal Yisrael on our shoulders. We carry the future of Torah on our shoulders. If I'm excited about something, my whole house is going to get excited about something. If I'm excited about something, my friends are going to join me. I can inject people with my enthusiasm. And you and I know that, you start with like a diet, and all of a sudden, everyone you know is following on that diet. You start running in the morning, all of a sudden, everybody wants to run with you. Why? Because if you want to do something and you're very into it, all your friends get into it. That's the koach of women. So the Medrash is telling us, you women, Hashem is saying that you have a tremendous ability, but what do you use that ability for? And Rav Moshe Feinstein adds and says on this pasuk that women have a spiritual essence inside of them. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to know forever and ever, even until today, that for Torah to continue in Am Yisrael, it means that the women have to accept upon ourselves this achrayus, O Malchus Shamayim. To know that we have to rededicate, that this is our life. V'ha'er einenu b'sor secha. This is my fire. This is my light. This is what I live for. This is what I breathe for. How do I do that? There's going to be 3 keys that we're going to speak about today. But we first have to recognize that women are spiritual beings. We have that emotion, we have the tears, we have the essence. What do we use our tears for? What do we use our tears for? My daughter-in-law lives in Yerushalayim with my son and my little granddaughter. And on the Friday of that tragedy in Meron, my daughter-in-law told me that she heard about what had happened and she just sat down in her dira. She didn't know what to do. She took out her Tehillim and she just began to cry. The tears were flowing. And her little girl, 20 months old, is just looking at her. And my daughter-in-law said, Rachel, Mommy's crying, Mommy's davening. You daven too, Rachel. Say, please Hashem, please. Please Hashem, please. So this little Rachel is walking around the dira and the whole Shabbos in the park. Please Hashem, please. Please Hashem, please. Rachel mivaka al baneha. This is who we are. When we were in Mitzrayim and everybody was ready to give up and there was Yeush, Amram himself separated from his wife Yocheved, and it was little Miriam who said, Abba, Abba, Paro's decreeing on the boys, you're decreeing on every family. What will be the future of Am Yisrael? And because of her, Amram went back to his wife. All the men followed. Moshe was born, and an entire generation was saved. Why? Because the women would not give up. It's the women who had the tof, who had the tambourines and the drums. By Shiras Hayam, I ask you, where did they get musical instruments in the desert? There's no stores. There's no malls. Because Miriam knew and the women knew that there would be a Yeshua. And as long as there is hope, there is life. So we have to come away from this, from all the darkness and all the hopelessness that everybody's feeling right now, and know that we have this ability, we have this koach, it's in our genes, to never lose hope, to be strong, to keep hope alive. Kosomar lebeis Yaakov, because this is who we are. And as long as we believe that, and we can hold on, then Am Yisrael can hold on, then our generation can hold on. Now, what are the 3 keys that we can take home so that we can replug into Har Sinai? So I'm going to go back to the pasuk again. And the first key is right over here. V'higbalta es ha'am saviv. Moshe Rabbeinu has to make a gavul. He has to make a border. He has to make a boundary. You know what the first key is? Mesiras Nefesh. Sweat. There are borders in life. There are places I cannot go. Sometimes I don't understand what's happening in this world. Even in my mind, there are places I can't go. But I have to have that emunah, anima, mimba, emunah shalema, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu watches over us. Every generation, every dor has a nisayon. For some, the nisayon is to give my life as a Jew. And for some, the nisayon is to live my life as a Jew. For some it is to give, and for some it is to live. I don't know, do you hear this right now? It's a little disturbing. Can we, there's noise, you know what to, you can fix it? Wow, look at that.
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah, okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah. I don't want to work.
Okay? Okay. So every generation, every dar has its test. It's Mesiras Nefesh, and for some, to give your life as a Jew. For some, to live your life as a Jew. We've all been touched and hurt by what happened in Meron. I want to give you the words of one of the fathers who lost not one son, but two sons, Rabbi Meir El-Haddad Sharf. And I'm sure you heard this. But for tonight, as we come close to Har Sinai, we have to recognize what it is to have Mesiras Nefesh. That entire night, when I had zero strength, I kept asking, Ribono Shel Olam, one thing I ask you, just one thing. Please, don't take away my emunah. Give me faith. I need that strength. Give me faith. That's what I cried for the entire night. That's Mesiras Nefesh. To live your life as a Jew. In everyday life, we have to admit, it's not so difficult. It's not so difficult to keep kosher. You know, when I was growing up, there was one kosher pizza shop in this whole neighborhood that you can go to. That was it. Today, you Uber Eat, whatever you want. There's kosher hotels all over the world. You can go to Dubai, and you can keep Shabbos and kosher. Where's the Mesiras Nefesh? So I have to ask myself in my everyday living, because when there's Mesiras Nefesh and I sweat for something, when you go to the gym, how do you know you had a good workout? You sweat. If you come out and you didn't sweat, I don't know what we did. You got to sweat a little. There has to be a little Mesiras Nefesh. Yes, I want to eat that, but guess what? I have to make a bracha. Is that my Mesiras Nefesh already? Yes, I want to say that, but you know what? It's Lashon Hara. What am I going to do? A little Mesiras Nefesh. We read Megillas Rus. Naomi was speaking to Rus, and Naomi is telling Rus, to be a bas melech means that you can't go everywhere. You can't wear everything you want to wear. You can't be wherever you want to be. You can't say whatever you want to say. There's Mesiras Nefesh. Are you sure you want to do that? And the words are so beautiful. Ki el asher telchi elech v'kasher talini alin amech ami v'elokayech elokai kasher tamusi amut v'shomek kaver. Yes. Yes, where you go, I go. Where you sleep, I sleep. What you do, I'm going to do, because I want to be part of this incredible this incredible nation. Yes, Mesiras Nefesh, I will not always understand, but I know forever and ever that I am a bas melech, I'm the daughter of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and no one can ever take that away from me. You know, when I was growing up, and then when my children were growing up, Leil Shabbos Friday nights, my children would get into pajamas with their cousins, and then my father would sing Shema with them, and then they would say to my mother, Bubba, can you tell us a story from when you were a little girl? And when my mother was a little girl, she grew up in Bergen-Belsen. What did they ask her for? I remember one story that my mother would say, how she would be woken up in the morning, have to stand at roll call, covered with lice and sores and hurting and starving. And there were the Nazi guards in front of her with their full stomachs and their coats and their fur hats and their German shepherds and their weapons and their shiny boots. But you know what, Kinderlach, my mother would say, I could still hear her voice. I never for a minute wanted to be one of them. I always said every single day, Baruch Hashem, thank you Hashem. that I am the daughter of Mama and Zayda. Thank you, Hashem, that I am the daughter of your people, of Malachim surrounding me, and I'm not one of them. Mesiras Nefesh. But to know who we are, that's number one. Number two, the second key when it comes to Kabbalas HaTorah, and again we see it in the Pasuk. The second key is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us Torah by Har Sinai. How? Kolos, ubrakim, b'shofar gadol. There were sounds, and there were noises, and there was thunder, and there was lightning, and there was this huge shofar blowing. I mean, do you hear the sirens going on in Eretz Yisrael right now? You can't sleep. It goes into your bones. And we're here, just watching it on a video, right? How do they feel? Those sounds. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us Matan Torah with those sounds? Do you know what the message is? And here is the second key when it comes to Kabbalas HaTorah, to rededicating, to reigniting, to making us feel Hayom Chadash, that this is new, that this is fresh, this is real. Passion. To have passion for Torah. To have passion for mitzvos. There are so many ways to do a mitzvah. Kibud av'eim, davening, all right. And you can do it, but you do it slow. Or you do it with a sigh. Or you do it, but you really don't want to do it. When there's passion for something, you wake up in the morning. I mean, think about it. You have kids, and to get them up for school, 8 o'clock, 8:15, 8:30, how many times do we have to wake them up? But if there's a trip, and you have to be up at 6, they'll be up at 5, and they are dressed and ready, and the knapsacks are filled. How is that? Because there's desire. There's passion. When there's desire and I want to do something, I'll do it with fire. To have fire. To bring Shabbos in with fire means that I bench licht even 10 minutes early. And I want to do it. I want this time. But to be rushing about and then, oh my gosh, it's licht benching already. Oh my gosh. You know what that's like? That's like having somebody come to your house and they're guests and they want to come and they're royalty, and you open the door, you say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here already. Could you just wait? I'm not down yet. Shabbos is coming. How do we bring it? If there's one thing we could do, let's just decide passion for Shabbos. To show Kadosh Baruch Hu, we love this. We want this. Because I was in Eretz Yisrael once, and a great tzaddik said to me something incredible. To bring segula and bracha into your life, bring Shabbos 10 minutes early. And why is that such a big deal? Because when you are mekabel Shabbos upon yourself, upon myself, 10 minutes early, we say something. Do you know what we say? Hashem, I am going to be Shomer Shabbos 10 minutes early. Early. You know why, Hashem? Because I love Shabbos. And I love you. And I want to guard Shabbos. And the same way that I'm being Shomer Shabbos, and I want to show you how much I love you, Hashem, please be Shomer me. And be Shomer my mishpacha. And be Mishomer Am Yisrael and Yerushalayim. What can we do now for Yerushalayim? Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim. Let's bring Shabbos 10 minutes early. And let's say, Hashem, in these 10 minutes, I'm going to show you my passion. And just like I guard Shabbos, I'm Shomer Shabbos, and I love Shabbos, Hashem, love me again. And love Am Yisrael again. And love Eretz Yisrael again. Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu. Hashem, you've loved us so passionately. We're coming back to Har Sinai now. Nasa v'nishma, to be your Am Segula. Did you ever see somebody passionate for a mitzvah? I did. I had an event on a Thursday night with women that I teach, and we did a mock Shabbos. A lot of these women had never experienced a Shabbos before. There we were in a white tent under the stars out in Long Island. So beautiful. We had music and we had dancing and we had stories and we had delicious food, and at the end of the night somebody said to me, "There's a little girl in the house and she's crying. Do you think you could find her and figure it out?" I go into the house and it doesn't take just a minute. I hear the sobbing and I hear the crying. So I follow the sound and I see this beautiful little girl and she's crying. Her mother's right next to her. And I bend down and I say to her, "Bubala, why are you crying?" And she's heaving. She says to me, "I'm crying because I want Shabbos." Oh my gosh, I take her in my arms. "You're crying because you want Shabbos?" I never met somebody who's crying because they want Shabbos. That's so beautiful. "Mommy, she wants Shabbos." And her mother says to me, "I told her I'll do it." So I say, "Why are you crying?" "We can't." I said, "What do you mean you can't?" "We can't because we used to do Shabbos. And my mother used to light Shabbos candles, but my father died. And after he died, my mother never lit Shabbos again. And when you don't do it, you can't do it ever again." "Oh my gosh," I said to her, "who told you that?" "I want to tell you something. It's Thursday night. Tomorrow night is Friday night. Your mommy is going to light Shabbos candles. And do you know what's going to happen in Shemayim, in the heavens above? There are malachim, there are angels, and do you know what they're going to do? They're going to say, 'Look who's back! Look who's back!' They're going to dance and clap and sing, and they're going to say, 'Look who's back! Look who's back!'" Each of us thinks sometimes that we can't do something. It's too late, or we've lost the passion. There's koach in these days for us to find passion again, whether it's saying a bracha, davening, Shabbos, inviting a guest, calling somebody that we know is lonely. But let's do it right, with passion, with fire, with that pintaliyid, that spark that's inside of each and every one of us. And finally, number 3, what is key number 3 when it comes to Kabbalas HaTorah for all of us to plug into? Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Hahar. To once again have Achdut. We're in this long and dark gullus for thousands of years. We have gone through every form of persecution, crusades, inquisition, gas chambers, missiles, tunnels, where they want to kidnap our people. In this country, stabbings, killings. I mean, it's so long. It's so long. I myself, I always say, I was born upon the ashes of the Holocaust. We would have family get-togethers, and my father's whole mishpacha was gone. A whole side of your family missing. Do you know what that is? Missing. Why? Because of kamtza and bar kamtza. Because 2 Jews can't sit together at one table. Because we can't talk to somebody who's different than us, who looks different, who thinks different. And it's up to us to once again say, Vayichan Yisrael, that we are one, Ish Echad, Kalev Echad, to stop judging and to start loving. Enough with, the texts and the mean LOLs and forwarding things that are hurtful. What are we doing? The whole world is against us. It's only us, and we're all sisters. And if you're a parent and you're sitting at a table, you could be in the most beautiful vacation spot in the world. But if your kids are fighting, you have no joy. You're nauseous. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that We can't sit together at a table, brothers and sisters, and friends who don't talk anymore, and aunts and uncles, and family. And we're all family. Just to give a person that you never would have spoken to or given a smile to, now an extra word, an extra smile, to make shalom. Make shalom. If there's somebody in our lives that we don't speak to, what are we doing? What are we doing? Who knows the zechus that will come from right now? Decide. One person that you haven't spoken to for a while, that it's so difficult, just wish them a good yantiv. And don't think to yourself, I can't, it's too hard. Because this is how we bring Mashiach. Vayichan Sham Yisrael. And again, one of the holy neshamas who were Mesiras Nefesh with a child in Meron, Rabbi Avigdor Hayat of Bnei Brak, and he lost his beautiful son Yedidia. And he was in a wheelchair with his one son that survived. And this is what he said, and I have to say his words to give kavod for him and for his mishpacha and for the nes. It should be a zechus for all the 45 who are Mesiras Nefesh in Meron. There in the hospital, no one checks who or what you are. We shouldn't have to reach the point where we need those kinds of circumstances. We must right this very minute figure out how to achieve Achdut. We have to figure this out. We're a small country, just a tiny bit of Jews against the entire world. And he said this before the rockets were falling. Let's join together. Not a single Jew should hate another. No one should speak negatively of another. We're in this together. That's my message for you all. And if you did, you would be able to speak now. That's what he would say. Let's just decide, you know what, one thing. I will not say something negative about another person. I will not forward a negative text or post something negatively about another person. Let's just clean the slate. Do you know what Achdut they could bring? We're all together. So, as we conclude this evening, and we have the 3 keys to stand by Har Sinai again, I want to speak to us as women, because it's written in the Gemara that 10 kavan, 10 measures of sicha came into the world, and 9 were given to women. And a lot of people laugh and say, why is that? Because women are talkers. So 9 measures of talking, of sicha, came into the world for women, and 1 was left for men. But Rav Pinkus, Zecher Tzaddik Levracha, says not so fast. I'm going to give you something very beautiful now. 10 kavan, 10 measures of sicha came into the world, and 9 were given to women. What is sicha? Rav Pinkus asks, Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basada. Sicha lasuach zuhi tefillah. It's not that we have 9 measures of speaking, of talking, the gift of gab. Do you know what we have? We have the koach of tefillah. 9 measures of sicha, of tefillah came into the world, and guess who has those 9? We. And 1 is left for everybody else. Wow. When a little girl can say, please Hashem, please. When you and I can open a Tehillim, and I know we're exhausted, but one more perek. Do you know what that does? Together we can pierce Shemayim. Because there is no one who davens like a woman. When we use our tears for the right thing, shar demos lo ninalu, the gates of tears are never closed. And if anyone is thinking to themselves, listening right now, but you're talking about holy women, you don't know me. I'm just a regular woman. I'm just a girl. And with this I will close. And I want to give you this message. When Naomi came back with Rus to Eretz Yisrael, she had left the most dignified, royal, with the most beautiful clothing, with carriages and shoes, and everything was just so gorgeous. And she comes back in tattered clothing, in rags, and her shoes are ripped, and there are holes in them, and there's no carriages, and there's no fine linen and fine fabric, and she's just like shriveled. So people see Naomi, and what do they say? 2 words, Hazos Naomi? Oh my gosh, look at her. Hazos Naomi? How can this be? This is Naomi? Hazos Naomi? This past year, there was a book written about my mother by Rabbi Nachman Seltzer called The Rebbetzin. And when Rabbi Seltzer interviewed my son, Eli, he asked for a memory. So the memory that my son shared, one of them was that Motzi Shabbos, my mother lived down the block from us, and Motzi Shabbos, when my son Eli would be home from yeshiva, he would go to make Havdalah for my mother. When my mother was extremely ill, she was one Motzi Shabbos lying on the couch with a blanket and her Tehillim. My son Eli was getting the Havdalah ready, and he hears his bubby, my mother, say to herself, Hazos Rebbetzin Jungreis? Hazos Rebbetzin Jungreis? So my son said, he went closer and he said, Bubba, what are you saying? And my mother said, Eli, 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 don't remember me like this. Don't remember me like this. Hazos Rebbetzin Jungreis. Eli, don't remember me like this. Hazos Naomi. And my son told Rabbi Seltzer that at that moment, what he was thinking was that when Naomi came back to Eretz Yisrael and she thought that she was in rags and she thought that she was so broken and nobody would ever think of her or look at her, and she was so down in the dumps, that was the moment that the Yeshua was born. That was the moment when she came back and she brought Rus. That was the moment, Matzmiach Keren Yeshua, that the seeds were planted. That was the greatest moment, because sometimes there's nothing as whole as a broken heart. And that's where greatness comes from. And what he wanted to say was, Bubba, you're not broken. What I see is somebody who is so great, who is hurting and who's not feeling good and so sick, but still you're sitting with your Tehillim and you want to hear Havdalah and you want to stand with all your koach, with everything you have left. It's at this moment that I see greatness, because that's what greatness is. Every one of us listening tonight, we have that fire and we have that greatness inside of us, and we have that vision. So let us come together and replug and rededicate and find that fire inside of us by becoming one. We can do that by becoming one, by Yichan Sham Yisrael, by deciding, put one mitzvah with passion. Take one mitzvah, a little Mesiras Nefesh. I don't feel it. I'm so tired, but I'm going to do it. This Shavuos night, I'm going to do it. Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim. Let's daven for Yerushalayim, for Eretz Yisrael, for Am Yisrael. Let's be one. We have that koach. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.